is Monday on the Pump Fake, the day before Halloween, the day before the NFL trade deadline. And I am joined by my friend, NFL Insider, KOA Colorado, Benjamin Allbright. It's good to see you, buddy. How are you?
Yeah, it's good to see you too, man. It's been a while.
It has been a while, probably since the combine, I think, since we've actually talked all that much.
I think so. Yeah, you kept trying to have me on, and I kept being the total jerk, and I was always busy and stuff, so I've been just like an absolute jerk about it.
It's okay. You're here now, and that's all that matters. Obviously, a lot of stuff that we expect to happen over the next 24 hours or so, and curious on what you're hearing. We'll start in your neck of the woods with the Denver Broncos. The entire talk for the past week is like, oh my goodness, are they going to move Pat Surtain? And you've been pretty adamant, like, no, they're not shopping Patrick Surtain, and lo and behold, it looks like they're not. If they're not going to move him, though, who are some of the players on Denver that could be looking or possibly getting shipped out over the next 24 hours, if you had to guess?
I don't think it's going to be that many. I mean, I never thought it was like a fire sale here, like they were being reported. That was never happening. The sense that I got was there might be one or two players shipped off if the offer was right. I still believe that to be the case, even though Sean Payton came out and said we're not remotely shopping anyone today. Well, not shopping anyone and not taking calls are two completely different statements. And so, I 60-40, I think Jerry Judy might be gone, but kind of beyond that, I don't know. I know the Eagles made a phone call about Justin Simmons, and then the price tag was too high. They pivoted to Byard. There have been a couple teams that have called about Josie Jewell. Teams that have called about obviously Pat Surtain, and that conversation was never getting started without a bigger than Jalen Ramsey type trade package. Cortland Sutton, that kind of stuff. So I think that if anything gets moved, I think it'll be one of the wide receivers, either Sutton or Judy. And obviously, the Ravens had a deal in place for Sutton this offseason, and then it just kind of fell through. And they wound up signing Odell Beckham, and that really hasn't paid any dividends for them. So I don't know if they might revisit that. But, as it sits right now, I'm not sure there's going to be a whole lot of movement. I'm not sure there's going to be a whole lot of this trade deadline. I think is going to be largely silent relative to last year's explosion of moves. That's not to say there won't be moves. There will be a couple, but I think it'll be largely silent.
Yeah, you brought up the Ravens, and they've been a team who's been, pointed to and saying, okay, go get a running back, like go get, Saquon Barkley if you can, go get a Derrick Henry if you can. The Titans with Derrick Henry right now and with DeAndre Hopkins, two guys that have been kind of pointed out and said, okay, they'll probably be gone. Well, then Will Levis throws for 4 touchdowns yesterday, looks really good. The Titans are 3-4. Do you think the Titans are going to continue to be active after trading away Kevin Byard, or do we see them hold on to Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins?
I look. I believe that there are. I believe there are some moves for the Titans to make. I don't think they're moving Derrick Henry. I don't. I think they explored that. I think that's dead. Nuke, I do believe that they could move. I'm not 100% that they're going to after the performance that Will Levis had.
Yeah.
I think that there's kind of a reconsideration about potentially just putting him out there, letting him take his lumps this season, and then having a security blanket like Nuke is kind of a thing that'll help him out. I don't think that there's a whole lot they need to do. Treylon Burks has been just the biggest non-factor for them so far. And that was supposed to be the big piece with moving, AJ. And so I think that might be something they explore, but I don't know, like right now you'd be selling low. So I don't know if they don't try to maybe feature Treylon a little this season and move him this offseason. I think the Titans are a team that wants to compete, and that division is in such a state of flux right now because you've got some teams that appear on the rise, in Jacksonville and the Colts and the Texans, but none of those have really capitalized. I mean, the Texans lost to the friggin' Panthers yesterday, and Jacksonville has been kind of hit or miss, and the Colts obviously had Richardson go down. So your window, if you're the Titans, for winning in that division might be sooner than later, and it might be time for you to kind of recognize that.
And you brought up the Jaguars. They were to be in the midst of looking for another defensive lineman and some edge help. It was Daniel Hunter that was kind of rumored for a minute, but we'll see with the Vikings. Josh Uche didn't dress for the Patriots the other day. Now he's kind of being thrown around. Are the Jaguars going to make a move? And what do you think will happen with Josh Uche and Daniel Hunter? Do they stay put, or are both of them, one of them going to be shipped out?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of interest around Daniel Hunter. So that's the one I kind of think gets moved. Obviously, with Kirk Cousins going down, I think the Vikings recognize that this is probably
Yeah,
going to
that's
be a lost
changes a
season
lot.
at this. Right. So I think at this point, I think, I think it's incumbent on you to just go ahead and, well, if we're going to blow it up, now's the time to rip the
Yeah.
Band-Aid. You know what I mean? So Daniel Hunter's one that I think could be on the move. I think it's going to be Jacksonville. I'm not 100 on that. I know they've certainly made, an effort to get involved in that conversation and get somebody opposite their only other pass rusher. But there are other people out there that can use pass rushers that might drive the market up out of Jacksonville's range. But I believe that they're certainly in the mix for Daniel Hunter. As far as Uche, I don't know. We'll have to see on that one. There are a couple of pieces around the league. Guys like corner Jalen Johnson. I don't know if he gets moved or if the Bears extend him, but I know there's interest. With Daniel Hunter, it feels like he's getting moved.
And yeah, you just mentioned Jalen Johnson and the possible extension. It feels like that's getting further along than anything. But now we're seeing rumors, okay, San Francisco in play, is another team in play. Um, I mean, is that 49ers thing too? Because I'm saying, okay, maybe the 49ers are willing to make an offer.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, the 49ers have the cap space to make some offers. The question is, do they have the assets and how are they going to do that? That kind of thing. I believe the 49ers are sort of kind of pushing all in. They recognize that they're in a window. They recognize that, that it's a weak NFC right now. And so I think that NFC teams, if you're an NFC team, you should be a buyer. If you're an NFC team that's at the top, if you're Philly, if you're Dallas, if you're San Fran, whatever, you should be a buyer right now because you're in your window. So I think San Francisco is in the mix. I mean, certainly, like I said, with Johnson, Dallas, and Buffalo and San Francisco have all inquired. The question is whether or not they're willing to spend up to do it and whether to push all in. And if I'm Buffalo, I don't know if I do that. It's a crowded AFC. We've been intermittent this year. I don't know if I do that. But if I'm Dallas or if I'm San Francisco, yeah, I'm absolutely pushing all in a very, very weak NFC.
With more defensive linemen, especially in Washington, Montez Sweat, John Allen, Chase Young, it feels like at least one of them is going to be gone, maybe two out of those three. If you had to pick one or two that you think will definitely be gone, who would it be? And for the one who's staying, why are they staying in Washington?
I mean, I think it depends on the offers that come in and everything else. My gut says Chase would be the one that'd be gone, but
Yeah.
again, it really just depends on the offers that come in. As far as that kind of stuff goes. Why would he be gone? There's been some friction there at different times. I think the other part of this, if you're Washington, I think they're blowing it up after this year. I think Ron Rivera's done. Whether or not they promote Eric Bieniemy remains to be seen, but I think they're done, with that. It's not official yet, but it's I've talked to some people and they've certainly been doing some background on coaching candidates, including the people on their staff. So, um, I think a lot of that kind of sort of depends on who comes in. So I think that Washington is probably not a midseason trade candidate, but more of an off-season trade candidate. As far as stuff goes, I think that if you're looking at those kinds of things, and again, I mean, if you're going to offload something midseason, cool, but you better make sure you're getting premium picks for it to make the war chest look good for potential head coaching candidates.
What is like the biggest thing that they could get for Chase Young right now? Because he's been hurt a lot. He hasn't exactly lived up to being a number two overall pick. What's the maximum value they could get out of a guy like that right
I mean, whatever somebody's willing to pay. If somebody gets
now?
desperate enough, you get a first rounder out of it. I mean, I don't think that that's really going to happen, but
Right.
I think you're probably looking at like a 2 and a 4, that kind of deal. With some conditions attached and those kinds of things due to injury that could accelerate it if he plays and decelerate it if he's hurt, that kind of stuff. So I think your best bet is somewhere in that range.
John Allen feels like a guy that makes sense to get moved right now, especially after his explosive press conference after last week's loss. It feels like he's just kind of done, and I feel like right now you could probably get more for Allen than you could for Chase Young. But like you said, I mean, that just depends on who's willing to pay what.
It is, and Young is viewed as more of a premium position,
Yeah.
like that John Allen is. Although I think that John Allen, like it's tough to find guys that are that good at that position, like tougher. So,
Mhm.
I mean, if it's me, I might be more after John Allen anyway. But I think you're right, and that's the thing. Like as far as it goes, you got to find a buyer on top of all that. Like I
Right.
said, I believe Washington's blowing it up. So you just have to make sure that what you get is not just shipping somebody out because it's a malcontent on culture. You got to make sure that you're stocking the war chest because you need to make that job attractive to the next candidate you want.
What about Jacoby Brissett though? Because it feels like they're just going to ride this thing out with Sam Howell, and he played extremely well yesterday, where they've got no reason to think that they shouldn't ride it out with Sam Howell. But now you're looking at okay, we talked about Minnesota already. Maybe they could be in the mix for Jacoby Brissett. Maybe Cleveland calls and tries to get him back after losing him this past offseason. Is there a market right now for Jacoby Brissett?
Small one. I think Minnesota really is kind of sort of the market if you're you got a backup quarterback that you want to ship out right now. I don't think that there's really. I mean, I don't think Cleveland's going to do that. I don't. Um, I do think that there's the potential for Minnesota to do it. Um, again, like if I'm Minnesota, I'm looking at this as we can rip the band-aid off. I know we only have Jaron
Yeah.
Hall on the roster or whatever, but we can rip the band-aid off. Let's just do it, and be done with it. We know that there's some things we need to retool here, and it'll buy us a couple of years as a staff and a front office if we do it now. If we try to do it midstream somewhere else, we're going to lose our jobs. So, I don't know that I would. I mean, if you're making that move, you need to make it a small contract, small trade kind of deal. You don't want to give up assets that you're going to use in the rebuild to acquire a guy that's a stopgap.
Yeah, and watching, 9 weeks now of Jaron Hall is certainly. I mean, if you're gonna blow something up and you're gonna just try to really embrace a tank for the rest of the year, I think Jaron Hall is a good route to go if you're the Minnesota Vikings. No disrespect to you, Jaron Hall, but uh, Ryan Tannehill, what's everything looking like with him coming back from when he does get 100% healthy? Is there a logical way that the Titans move off him right now?
I don't think right now, obviously he's hurt. So I think that if you're looking at this situation, you're looking at how Will Levis plays going forward. And if he's the guy, then they'll absolutely move off Ryan Tannehill after this season. And that'll give them the opportunity to reset with the rookie deal and fill in a few pieces, and especially a receiver, and kind of go from there. So, I don't think Ryan Tannehill is really going to play much more in Tennessee ever again, unless it's an injury or Will Levis just bombs going forward.
In terms of teams that you think are going to be heavy buyers, you already pointed out that top NFC teams should be. Is there any sneaky teams that we could see that are, kind of on the rise, want to get a little bit better? Maybe there's one piece of it that we could see make a sneaky deal that we didn't see coming.
You might see like an NFC South team try to do that because it's a very muddled division, and
Yeah.
it's a soft conference, so you could see them trying to step in and do all that. I do believe Detroit's been sniffing around and stuff, but they've been gun shy about making moves so far. I you could see a Tampa, kind of looking at this thing saying, well, we're almost good enough. That kind of thing. And, maybe in New Orleans saying we're almost good enough. I don't think it'd be Carolina or Atlanta, but one of the other two teams, I think, saying we're almost good enough. Let's make a move here, and we can maybe make some noise in a very, very weak NFC. On the AFC side, I'm just trying to think right now of who would potentially be a buyer. Maybe the Chargers, because Brandon Staley's going to lose his job if they don't get the playoffs and get a win.
Yeah.
So maybe the Chargers, but I don't know that Telesco is moving assets to do that to save Brandon Staley.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about Buffalo a little bit earlier. It makes sense a little bit for them to try to add a weapon, but the money situation that they're going into next offseason, I mean, it's tight. They would have to move around a lot of money and convert a lot of money to even make anything, right?
I mean, there's flexibility there. Most of the teams, most of the good teams now have got a cap flexibility to them that allows them to be in these situations and make moves. And if you've got cash flush owners, you can accelerate using bonus type stuff to clear up cap space. That's one big advantage that the Broncos have right now. Everybody thinks they're in bad cap space going forward. I'm like, man, they're going to dump two or three contracts this offseason. And oh, by the way, their ownership is flush with cash. In fact, they have more money than every other owner combined right now outside of Washington. So, I think that I think that every team is a willing owner away from having the money.
Before I let you go, is there any is there any name that we haven't talked about, or maybe one that isn't being looked at nationally that is a pretty prime trade candidate right now that you could see surprising people getting moved before tomorrow?
That's a good one. I think you'll see a running back get moved. Um, if you were the Giants and you were Saquon Barkley, I think this might be the moment to demand a trade. Not that
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So I might that that kind of situation, setup or scenario, that might be a thing. I think you could see a running back or two moved just because of the way some things played out. I'm struggling to think of a name that might be out there right now, but
Is there a chance that Mike Evans goes? I mean, that's one that just came into mind. There was murmurs about that at the beginning of the season. Tampa was playing well, but now kind of on the downswing from this roller coaster season they've had.
I don't think so. I really don't. I mean, that was one of the ones that like the national reporting was that he could, and the sense I got from the team at the time was that they weren't even interested in that. That may have shifted. I mean, I haven't really kind of personally checked in with them in the last week, but I got the sense early on that they just wanted to keep him a buck for life kind of thing.
Good stuff all around, buddy. Hey, I appreciate you joining me. Obviously, busy time at this point of the season, and we'll do this more hopefully before season's end. I appreciate you as always.
Absolutely, brother. Take care.
All right, take care, buddy. Thanks everybody for tuning into the Trade Line edition of the Pump Fake, and then tune in later on this week for tomorrow, I guess, for the Week 8 recap, Week 9 preview on Friday. So appreciate y'all for tuning in. Ben, appreciate you, buddy.
Yes, sir.